Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cover One Roundup podcast here live each and every Monday night on the Cover One Network, Cover One YouTube channel, or subsequently wherever you listen to your podcasts. I am your host, Kyle Salagi, joined this and every week by David Fox, and we have stuff to talk about this week. We did not have to scratch all week last week to try to come up with a episode idea. This is no drought retrospective. This is no players to watch. There's actual
no tier making allowed.
No tiers.
We've got press conferences. We've got tweets. We've got other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure
there's actual football being played, kinda football adjacent. No pads, right. None of that. But Josh Allen threw footballs this week. Stephon Diggs caught them.
And if that doesn't get you going, what will?
Exactly. You're not even a Bills fan if that doesn't get you going. So we are going to be talking about our initial takeaways from Buffalo Bills training camp, which, of course, kicked off yesterday on Sunday. Again, we're 2 practices deep. Pads aren't even being worn. So there's only so much you can take away from that. But we've taken away some things. So we're going to talk about our initial reactions, takeaways from, again, the first 2 practices, and just kind of, delve into what we've seen, or not what we've seen, but what the Cover One people have seen. We have Cover One people there at St. John Fisher College in, I would say, beautiful Rochester, New York, but I think that would be a bit of a stretch. I have no room to talk, right? Being a Buffalo native, grown up in Buffalo, I have no room to talk about the quality of another city, but I am not a Rochester fan. I've spent many nights in Rochester, many of them bad. So
this is a great way to start things off.
Those are my Rochester takes. Garbage plates are exactly that, garbage. So, but yes, we'll talk about our takeaways from that, and I think that's all we have to do. So we'll just get started here momentarily. Before we do that, this show and Cover One in general are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. David, can you tell us a little bit about Underdog Fantasy?
I would love to tell you, Kyle, about the fact that we here at Cover One are so excited to partner again with the most dynamic name in fantasy football, Underdog Fantasy. If you have one home league and that one draft each year isn't enough for you, then Underdog Fantasy is for you. All the fun of drafting your own players, but without the waivers and lineup decisions. Best ball drafts allow you to have all the fun of drafting your team, all the chances to win big with none of the week-to-week hassle. If you use our promo code Cover1 when signing up, you will be able to make your first deposit, and Underdog will match that deposit up to $100. That is $100 in free play if you use promo code Cover1. Even better, Underdog's Best Ball Mania 3 contest is going to make 3 players millionaires. That's right, millionaires with an M and an illionaires at the end. $10 million in total prizes, $2 million to the first, $1 million to the second, and $1 million bonus to the team with the most regular season points. 3 chances to win $1 million. Sign up now using promo code Cover1 and take your chance at $1 million today with Underdog Fantasy.
Promo code Cover1. That's free money, people, if you think about it. If you think about it critically, they're kind of giving you free money.
If you think about it critically, if you think about it emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, racially, even sexually.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are numerous ways you can
There's so many other ways. There's so many ways. At the end of the day, it's just free money.
Okay. Yeah. Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code Cover1. And as I said about Cover One, we have some people up there at St. John Fisher right now covering training camp, right? They're in attendance every day. The Cover One is not a credentialed media outlet, so we don't have to put up with the rules that Buffalo Bills put.
So stuck on that.
Right. We don't have to put up with those rules of like, oh, you can't tweet about who's lining up with what team, who's getting the majority of the reps. It's like, no, if you just check out cover1.com or cover1.net, sorry, not a company guy. Cover1.net, sign up for One Pass, which is our revamped premium content service. Make sure to look into that if you're interested. Affordable price, and you get great content, including all the written content that's come out this last 2 days now, for great analysis from people who are at training camp. Eric has written a number of great articles. One about the takeaways from today. Von Miller had a great day today, according to Eric. Khalil Shakir has had 2 great days, and yesterday James Cook kind of stood out, getting involved in the passing game. So we'll talk about all of that. But if you want to read more in-depth work about that and just press conference takeaways, stuff like that, again, cover1.net, one pass. Affordable price. You have access to all that great content, and also the Cover One Premium Slack, where you can talk to a bunch of Bills fans about a wide variety of topics. People are always talking in the Slack. It's always a lot of fun. So, yes, again, check that out. So let's just get started here, David. Okay. I think the biggest storyline coming out from camp right now has to be the slot receivers. And this kind of stems from the fact that Jamison Crowder did not play today, and by play, I mean practice. So Jamison Crowder missed today, was on the sideline on the bike, kind of, doing what people do on bikes, which is that they pedal. So great analysis there.
Good job, Kyle. You got
thank
there.
You. I figured it out. I figured out what people do on bikes. So Isaiah McKenzie kind of had to step up today with the ones. And apparently this was after a strong day yesterday where he kind of impressed yesterday, and today has to come out and impress with the ones, gets the opportunity to play with the ones on a more consistent basis, and he takes advantage of it. Apparently, according to Eric and other people in attendance, he was one of the standout players at camp today. Also did not take any of the snaps on special teams, which, knowing how the Buffalo Bills view special teams, they like to have special teams and specifically the return game. They like to have return game specific players. They don't often use players who they use in significant roles on offense or defense as a returner unless they need Micah Hyde to fair catch. So Isaiah McKenzie not only being used as a first team slot receiver, but also not taking any special teams reps. That kind of, if you read into it a little bit, read the tea leaves, could be indicative of him having a bigger role offensively than a lot of us were anticipating. So, David, your initial just thoughts on Isaiah McKenzie, not only impressing, but getting more offensive snaps and fewer special team snaps than we anticipated.
So, Isaiah McKenzie impressing in the offseason is sort of what we've heard before. At least, I mean, I remember last year he was kind of like, everybody was talking about this is the best he's ever looked, and he ultimately ended up playing more or less the same exact role that he's played in the previous years here in Buffalo. But him getting more snaps in general on offense and fewer snaps as a return person on special teams is a little bit more indicative potentially of where they might view him as a player, which is interesting. And I think that, we've talked about Isaiah McKenzie before, and how some people seem to be extrapolating a lot out of one particular game against the Patriots and thinking that like that he can be a lot more than he is. And again, I don't know if even if he does take a step forward that he'll like be that type of player on a regular basis, because that was a from a statistical standpoint, a crazy game that he had against the Patriots. But if he can be a little bit more consistent week to week on offense, I mean, I'm here for it. I mean, he when he gets the ball in his hands with a little space, he's got that speed that can turn the corner and create some big plays. And I think being able to use him as more than just the eye candy motion and occasional handoff guy, it can be helpful. And it can be helpful in doing that motion and that sort of trickeration being more effective the more you use him in other roles and in that particular role as well.
Jason writes, do you truly believe McKenzie can beat out Crowder? I don't see it.
I mean, no, but that's not what matters, right? I mean,
the issue is that the injuries with Crowder. We've said this about Crowder since the Bills signed Crowder.
Yeah.
Like, he will probably, if he's healthy, if he's able to stay healthy, he's their best slot receiver.
Yeah.
Will probably hold on to that slot receiver job. But I mean, the guys they have behind him, McKenzie, I mean, this is a Super Bowl contending team. They shouldn't just have one good slot receiver. The guys they have behind Crowder with McKenzie and Shakir, I mean, if Crowder even misses a beat, they're both going to be pushing on that door or knocking that door down, pushing each other. to the point where when Crowder comes back, should this happen in the regular season, it'd be difficult for him to reclaim his job because I'd expect McKenzie or Shakir to kind of get a stranglehold on it because, again, they're both really good. The fact that, again, we don't know what Crowder's injury is or why he missed today's practice. We'll probably learn more in the coming days. He might come back tomorrow and, he's right back in the competition. But the fact that this happens on day 2, the injury thing with Crowder, and he already misses practice on day 2 of training camp, and McKenzie's already McKenzie's already the name, right? I mean, I think a lot of people in this space were saying, like, no, Crowder's the better slot receiver. He'll probably go into training camp and win the job, again, assuming he's healthy. But a lot of fans still are in this love affair with Isaiah McKenzie because he's a charismatic guy, and he's, he's an easy player to like. So I think a lot of players or a lot of people want Isaiah McKenzie to come out of camp with this job. And the fact that, again, Crowder's already running into these injury issues, and then McKenzie's making the most of his opportunities, as is Khalil Shakir, who we'll get into here momentarily. I mean, Crowder obviously is still very much, the competition is nowhere near over. I would still probably say Crowder's going to be the slot receiver ultimately, but I mean, as I said, we're on day 2, and the issue is already here. The issue is already here. So it is frustrating. Anything else to say on McKenzie, or can we move into maybe my favorite player at this point?
Let's move on. Let's get into Khalil Shakir.
I have not seen Khalil Shakir. Again, I am not there. I have not seen Khalil Shakir take a snap in a Buffalo Bills uniform. But look, I'm pushing the narrative of Khalil Shakir might be their best wide receiver. That is not true. But Khalil Shakir is, we said last week, David, that Khalil Shakir was going to come out in training camp and probably early, but at some point in camp, he was going to come out and just make plays. And he was going to be the guy where you just, you scroll Twitter on whatever day, and you're seeing beat reporters or people in attendance saying, Khalil Shakir made another play today. Oh, there's Khalil Shakir again. And then you're going to start seeing him maybe work his way into first team reps. Again, we're on day 2, but we've already seen that. That has been my Twitter feed throughout the past 2 days. It's just, Khalil Shakir, soft hands, super comfortable. John DeMarchi, thank you so much. $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Asking D Jackson Elam to D-up Cup Robinson week 1 or Miami's vastly improved wide receivers week 3 is a stretch. Trey ACL week 8, not week 1. 2 words. Joe Hayden, get him as a veteran placeholder. Do it now. We will talk. We have some DB stuff planned for later in the show. We will talk about the cornerback situation. Kyle, go out on a limb. Shakir is going to be an all-pro, writes Jason. I will. I'll go out on that limb.
So Stephon Diggs, 1,000 yards. Gabe Davis, 1,000 yards. Khalil Shakir, all-pro. Isaiah McKenzie, face of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. And James Cook is going to have a role in this passing game as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're definitely talking Super Bowl here, right?
Like, for sure. And Josh Allen's throwing for 8,000.
20-0, probably.
At least.
Yeah.
And then they'll apply for the XFL and roll over them as well. They'll lose one in the XFL. They will lose one in the XFL. That's where their streak ends, to the San Antonio whatevers. No, with Khalil Shakir, again, the praise has been these last couple of days just comfortable, right? That's kind of the word I've seen. Is looks like he knows what he's doing. Again, soft hands. Eric noted today that over the middle of the field, or one of his biggest things coming out of Boise, and again, I made note of this after the Bills drafted him. I was like, he reminds me of Gabe Davis, but over the middle of the field in terms of body adjustment and just coming down with these crazy catches where you're like, how is he coming down with this? How is he doing this with his body? And Eric, in his article today, wrote that through the first 2 days, he's made a couple of catches like that over the middle of the field where whoever's throw is just a little too hard or just a little behind him, and Khalil Shakir will make it an in stride adjustment to move his body in order to come in with the catch. Which, again, we said Khalil Shakir is going to be a guy who you keep hearing from, and through 2 days, Khalil Shakir is a guy who we have heard a lot about. And again, with Crowder out, Shakir, at least today, Crowder out. Shakir probably seeing more reps and apparently he got a few reps on the boundary yesterday as well. But Shakir probably is a guy who is getting more reps, at least initially, than anticipated. But I asked last week if Shakir could make this a 3-man competition, like a legitimate 3-man competition. Obviously, he hasn't had any first-team reps yet. But David, is Shakir going to work his way into this discussion?
It sure sounds like it. I mean, he seems to be somebody that has been consistent and doing things that they're probably not expecting from a 5th round pick rookie. I mean, that to me is pretty impressive. Now, this team and this coaching staff is pretty notorious for bringing along most of their players pretty slowly. And given the glut that they have at wide receiver with Diggs and Davis and the aforementioned face of the franchise, Isaiah McKenzie, and Jameson Crowder, assuming he's healthy, it might be tricky for him to get a chance. But if Crowder is out and McKenzie is having a down week, I mean, I would feel very comfortable having Khalil Shakir in that lineup. And I think, personally, if you put Shakir in the lineup, it's going to be very difficult to take him out of the lineup.
Right. Like, yeah. Like, that's we were kind of saying that about McKenzie, but Shakir to an extent, right? Like, with Shakir, if he gets into that lineup, again, and he's going
to have a ways to go, obviously, but there's just certain things that he seems to be doing that are really impressive for a young rookie to be doing right now.
Mm-hmm. And like, as Eric, again, I keep referencing One Pass in the articles, but we've had some fire on cover1.net. And as Eric wrote, like, that is such not an easy way, obviously, because what Khalil Shakir is doing is in no way easy, but such a big way to earn trust from your quarterback, right? The adjustment over the middle of the field to just knowing that, like, okay, it can be a little bit off. Obviously, the quarterback wants to get the ball on target,
right,
perfect every time, but that's just not what happens. So the fact that, with Khalil Shakir, your range is quite large, that he has the ability to kind of extend your range. That's really good for a quarterback and wide receiver relationship. Really builds up trust between a quarterback and a wide receiver. It hasn't been flawless for Khalil Shakir. There was a miscommunication today, and again, hasn't been with the first team that much, if at all. And then also, as I said, right, with special teams reps, kind of that is indicative of how they view a player, or their worth, or not worth, but their potential role offensively or defensively. If you see a player on special teams taking kick return reps, that probably signals that they're not going to have that big of a role. Like I said today, McKenzie took no special teams reps because he was taking first team reps in the slot. And then Shakir today did take reps as a kick returner / punt returner. Stevenson got the majority from what we've heard, but Shakir also did take reps. So that's kind of maybe a little indicative of, like, okay, they don't view him as having that big of a role offensively if they still think he could have a role as a returner. But again, this is what I wanted to see from Khalil Shakir. This is what I expected to see from Khalil Shakir. Everyone has been saying that he was this draft steal, and here he is, 2 days into camp, already kind of becoming one of the names that we're talking about.
That's right. Yeah, it's been an impressive start for Shakir. Again, he's somebody that I was really interested in watching during the preseason because I want to see exactly what he'll be like in those scenarios. So this first couple days have been amplifying that feeling of wanting to get to the preseason and see what he's going to be like in action.
And then we're done with the slot here. I want to bring up this chat that Jessica wrote. Crowder most likely just had some tightness. This is practice, no need to push it. I agree, right? This probably isn't some serious injury from Jamison Crowder. But again, the fact that, as I said, with injuries being his primary concern, and on day 2 he's missing practice. Again, it's nothing major. I'm sure he will bounce back and everything will be fine and he'll be as good as anticipated, but it is something, injuries are something to keep an eye on with Crowder, maybe just not this injury.
Yeah.
Moving on to a different faction, or a different facet of the passing game, I should say. The backfield, David. getting
Yes.
involved in the passing game, which again is something that we've talked about for months here with the Bills pursuing J.D. McKissick in free agency, missing out on him, ultimately signing Duke Johnson, and then signing James Cook, or not signing. Well, they did sign James Cook, but after they drafted him in the second round, it's obvious that they view the running back position as a bigger part of a Ken Dorsey passing game than they did a Brian Daboll passing game. And again, through 2 days of practice, or mainly 1 day of practice, the running backs did get some play in the passing game. Again, Eric wrote in this a great article yesterday about their usage in the passing game. Apparently, the Bills ranked, or I shouldn't say apparently they did, they ranked 27th in terms of running back targets through the air last year. That's not very good. That's very low. But yesterday in practice, James Cook and Raheem Blackshear, which is a name that I never anticipated to say on the Cover One Roundup.
Yeah.
Both getting usage in the passing game. Mostly Khalil Shakir, Eric noting that he looked quicker in person than he did on film, which is good. Like I didn't think he looked slow on film. I certainly did think he looked slow, but it's the classic football thing, right? Of like, oh, he's quick, not fast, fast, not quick. If James Cook is fast and quick, then nothing better. But again, both of them, Cook and Blackshear, running ram routes out of the backfield. And then Eric made note that they were the primary position targeted in the red zone in the passing game, which is unique, which is very unique, right? When you have Dawson Knox, OJ Howard in the red zone, Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs, the fact that they're going to the running back in the red zone is not something that we've seen them really do in the passing game the last couple of years since Josh Allen has been here. Also motioned James Cook into the slot a couple of times. But I don't want to say my issue, right? Because this is very reassuring. This has been a weakness of the Buffalo offense in recent years. Is there not maybe could be unwillingness or just inability to get the running backs involved in the passing game? So the fact that we're 2 days through camp and we are seeing Cook and Blackshear, mostly Cook. I mean, Cook's the one that's going to make the roster. The fact that we are seeing them have a role offensively in the role that we anticipated, it is fun. It is reassuring. It's interesting. But I've heard nothing about James Cook as a running back. Running backs, I've heard Devin Singletary is getting the first team reps. Devin Singletary is the one who they're kind of relying on, which is what we anticipated. But Anthony made a great point a couple weeks ago on Disguised Coverage with, if we do not see James Cook as a running back, if James Cook is not established as a running back, every time he is on the field, it is just a tendency giveaway. Right? Like there's no threat to run the ball if James Cook is not established as a running back. Again, 2 days into camp, obviously far too early to hit the panic button. Certainly, my hand's nowhere near the panic button, but I would like to start hearing a little bit about James Cook as a running back, what he can do on the ground. Again, great to hear that he's impressing as a receiver because that's what he was drafted to do. He was drafted to be a receiving back, but I would like to start hearing about a little bit of prowess on the ground from James Cook. And again, he did practice today, but Eric noted that he was often getting treated off and getting his hamstrings worked on the sidelines. So again, as Jessica noted, this is a lot of guys' first time playing football in numerous months here. James Cook, it's his second NFL practice, so I'm not hitting the panic button. But yeah, James Cook having a role offensively as a receiving back, same with Raheem Blackshear. So David, running backs are getting involved. How do you feel about this?
As they should be. We've talked about this before, and how this could be a way that like the Dorsey offense differs from the Daboll offense. For all the good things that the Brian Daboll offense did bring, the lack of running back production from the backfield on passing plays was pretty obvious. And part of that is just like Singletary and Moss not necessarily being the best, or Frank Gore being the best options.
No Frank Gore slander.
You mean boxer Frank Gore?
Right, boxer.
Professional boxer Frank.
That dude's had a hell of a life.
Oh my gosh. Oh, man.
Big ups, Frank Gore. The Marty Brodeur of the NFL.
But obviously, James Cook is the most gifted player they've had in terms of being able to catch the ball, cleanly and efficiently and effectively and do something with the ball after he's caught it. But it seems like this is very much a concerted effort, and I know they were talking about on the first day the Texas concept and angle routes when they were working in the red zone from the running back position. Eric, of course, bringing up cover one pass again.
Cover one pass.
Cover one pass. Wrote a good article describing what exactly that concept is. If you've ever played Madden, the whole goal basically is to get your on this concept is to get your running back over the middle on a little route that goes just out and then back inside like a slant. It's super effective. It's a lot of fun on Madden just to, because if you get a nice slow linebacker who's not good in coverage and you get a fast little running back, then boom, you're gone. And something that popped into my mind when I saw that is, you have guys like Isaiah McKenzie who have been put in the backfield before. If you use him on those routes, interesting little wrinkle, if I may put something in the suggestion box for Coach Dorsey. Not that I expect a lot going on. He's got a lot of things on his plate. But yeah, that's something that I think it's good that they're getting them involved, and it's good that they are wanting to get the most out of James Cook, because that is, I think, going to be the best way to get stuff out of him, especially early on as a rookie, when his biggest issue was the fact that he wasn't the most refined running back in the world coming out of Georgia, as a runner specifically, but his receiving skills were very, very obvious. So you got to work with what you're given, and it might take some time. Like, we haven't necessarily seen, again, first few days of training camp, we haven't really seen him be used as a runner a lot. It's been a lot of Singletary and Moss to start, but if it takes a little time for him to get his feet wet, so to speak, in that area, then so be it. He can still find a good and important way to contribute to the offense early on.
John DeMarchi again coming in clutch. Thank you so much, sir. Last comment, love to all Bills Mafia. Keep an eye on left guard Roger Saffold rib injury, car accident. Yes. And then those are usually 6 to 8 weeks. Axe has 2 to 3 weeks to go. So narrow timeline before week 1 versus Aaron Donald. Oof. And we remember the last time Aaron Donald played Josh Allen, or specifically the second half of that game.
I've heard this Aaron Donald guy's name. Is he good? Is he good?
Not according to my friend. According to my friend who has a lot of great football takes, he was only good for his entire NFL career. He was only good because he had Von Miller in the last half of last season. And I was like,
I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense. The logic and the math works out really well.
Again, that would have been a great segue there for our offensive line talk, but I can't take it. Juan Castillo makes a great point. Former NFL coach Juan Castillo.
Former NFL defensive coordinator, Juan Castillo to you, Kyle.
He's here in the chat. Apparently, this is a good point. They're mostly running red zone, 3rd and 4th down plays. Not too many run plays to be had. This is, of course, about James Cook. We're not hearing much about him as a running back. I did hear that this was the thing today, is that they were mostly running 3rd down stuff, which makes sense, right? And then James Cook not really practicing, or at least not a full participant in practice today. That would make sense for, those two narratives kind of clashing. I did not, I just hit my desk. I did not hear, I don't know what they were running yesterday though, which red zone would make sense, which again would add up with James Cook being, used in the passing game, and the running backs being used in the passing game, mostly in the red zone, which again, even regardless, we're 2 days into camp, so it's okay. Everything's okay. We're gonna be all right. So to speak. So, yes, and as Jason writes, very persistent bot. If you're listening on this podcast, just know that David and I have been working overtime getting rid of these damn sex bots in the chat. They are relentless. Moving on to the
algorithm
line.
clearly does not know 50% of this this podcast's sexual orientation, so they missed the mark here.
I mean, they had the target demo though. I'm sure cover one's.
I mean, yes. I'm not saying that's not, but you know, this feels like an attack. This feels a little discriminatory. I'm not gonna lie.
Right. It'll back off now. Now that you said that, they'll back off.
I'll bring it up to their HR department.
Please do. Moving on to the offensive line, or no, something else I want to add. Ken Dorsey, when calling plays on the sideline, has been apparently staying away from players, which would lead one to believe that he's going to be in the booth as a play caller, which is unique because wasn't he on the sideline? Hasn't he been on the sideline as a quarterback coach in the past, or am I wrong in this?
I'm actually not sure if he's been on the sideline. I'm guessing he has been, because Dayball was in the booth. So they probably wanted somebody, whoever
on the field, right?
Like next guy was on the field with him. So my guess is they're probably going to have a similar setup with Dorsey as the OC in the booth, and probably have Joe Brady on the sideline to help just sort of coordinate and relay things from the booth to the sideline, and when they're not on offense, to be able to communicate things and be there with Josh to help out. To me, I mean, when I was living with my old roommate Tyler Manus, and they're back again. These stupid things. It's ridiculous. So my old roommate Tyler Manus, if you want to follow him, he's a great time on Twitter at Coach T_Manus, if I remember correctly. If not, then whatever.
Find him. Yeah, just do a little.
Someone will find him. Yeah. So one thing he talked about when he started to get into coaching was, and he's a defensive coordinator. He talked about how difficult it is just to see what's going on from the sideline, like the way that you actually want to be able to see things. If you're just an observer, if you're just trying to have a lot of fun, a ground floor sideline angle is a lot of fun. You get to see a lot of different things. But if you're wanting to see everything that's going on while you're calling this game, I mean, I think you got to be in the booth. And it's not, I mean, most play callers that are not head coaches are calling their plays from the booth. And that's not a bad thing at all. Like, it honestly amazes me that guys like, Vic Fangio, when he was the head coach in Denver, I'm pretty sure he was still calling the plays on defense for them. And he was, had to be on the sideline because he was the head coach. I mean, that to me is just, I don't know how anyone would be able to do that. That's just a very difficult thing. So to me, Ken Dorsey being in the booth is a good thing, not a bad thing. And I think that, I would imagine they have Joe Brady and probably Aaron Kromer both on the sideline just to bring that element of like, hey, having someone that you can talk to and hash things out on the sideline rather than just being on the headset all day long when you're on the sideline.
They're not going to have Davis Webb this year, though. That's a huge L. Huge L for the Buffalo Bills. No Davis Webb.
What are you going to do?
But with Brian Dable, he kind of fluctuated. I think he started in the booth in Allen's rookie year, and then Allen stunk. So then he moved down to the sideline, and then that went okay. And then in 2019, Allen stunk again, and then Dable went back to the booth. And he's just, it eventually worked itself out, right? Because Allen just kind of matured and figured out how to play football. But I say this as someone who at the time was maybe too complimentary of Josh Allen. In hindsight, I can say maybe he wasn't as good as I said he was, but he's really good now. Now believe what I say. When I say he's good now,
that's right.
Good. But no, Dorsey. Again, you want a wider scope, especially him being a first-time play caller. I want him to have as much information as possible when making these plays, and that, being in the booth probably gives him the most information possible. We mentioned Aaron Kromer. Aaron Kromer has some juggling to do, or has been doing some juggling throughout these last 2 days at training camp. Of course, the new offensive line coach. The offensive line, I don't want to say it's been a carousel or it's been, or I will say it's been a carousel because a number of guys have had to kind of slide into roles that maybe we weren't expecting them to be in, given number one, Roger Saffold, of course, as John wrote, being involved in a car accident. Shouldn't have laughed there. Not a good time to laugh, Kyle. But Roger Saffold was involved in a car accident. He's missing who knows how long as he recovers from injured ribs. And then Cody Ford had to slide into left guard yesterday. I think Bates was at right guard. And then today we saw Quisenberry play guard, and then Tommy Doyle play a little bit of right tackle because Spencer Brown is still kind of recovering from his offseason procedure, I do believe, and he's just kind of getting intermittent, snaps here and there. So, and from what I've read, from what, the Cover One people have told us who are there, it's to be expected that the defense outperforms the offense at this point, especially to be expected that the defensive line outperforms the offensive line. But again, through however many days, through 2 days, from what I've read, Josh Allen has been under pressure pretty consistently. He's thrown a couple of interceptions, a number of which can be ultimately attributed to the fact that he had no time, to the fact that the pocket collapsed around him, which, again, this is to be expected. These growing pains are to be expected with a new offensive line coach, with new players, and again with this, one of their prospective starters not even there, dealing with his rib injury, so they kind of have to move guys in and out of the lineup. So again, I'm not hitting the panic button on anything at this point, but it just has to be stated that the offensive line has been juggled a little bit through these first 2 days, and the defensive line is to be expected that they outperform, but that is what we're seeing. So David, offensive line through 2 days, what are your thoughts?
It's really hard to judge the offensive line for anything when the pads aren't on, which is something that Brandon Bead said. He's just kind of looking forward to the pads and seeing what ultimately shakes out of that. Saffold not being there, it's a little disappointing, and obviously there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's fortunate that all he has from a car accident is a couple of cracked ribs. So that's good in a way. But I do think that what I want to see is just like seeing Questenberry at left guard was interesting because this is something that Aaron Kromer likes to do. He likes to just try guys at different positions. And he's sort of known for saying like, look, we're going to throw you in this position. And honestly, you're going to suck at it. Like you're going to suck at it to start. And that's okay. Like, we know that, that. Let's just get over that aspect of it. You're going to suck at it to start, but as long as you keep doing it, as long as you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, we'll figure out if you can actually be there or not. And Questenberry is somebody that they brought in to be a backup tackle, but as Brandon Bean also said yesterday, you got to be versatile. I mean, that's something they're going to be looking at come cut down day with some of these guys. It's like, right. They talked that was the reason why they kept Brian Bates for so long on the practice squad. It's just that they knew he could just come in and play one of those 5 spots. And he did. I mean, he played at center, he played at guard, he played a little bit at tackle. So for somebody like Questenberry, who's long been a backup tackle, for him to start playing at guard is very interesting to me. We'll see how that actually shakes out. As for Cody Ford, we've said it before. If there's a chance for him to reclaim some measure of ability and status in the NFL, it would be with Aaron Kromer. And if a backup right tackle is already starting to eat into your reps, maybe that's not the best sign.
I don't even actively dislike Cody Ford. I have nothing but like apathy towards Cody Ford. Like I do not care about. I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's a really good person. But like as a player, I just really do not really have strong opinions about him. I'm just tired of talking about it. If that makes sense. Fair. Because for this podcast, this might even be the year anniversary this week. If it's not the year anniversary of the Cover One Roundup, it's damn near close to it. I feel like every week I have said some version of Cody Ford is not that good. And I just am tired of saying it because there's nothing else to say with it. It's just like, oh, Cody Ford, when he plays guard, he's not that good. Maybe they should upgrade. And they do, but they end up having to. It's tiring. It's very tiring. It's cyclical. I feel like I'm trapped in a weird space-time dilemma issue. I don't know. Cody Ford is making me believe in, alternate dimensions or whatever. And if they do exist, I want to live in the one where he's not on the team. Aaron Hill, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Thank you. Very much appreciated. Cook as a backfield checkdown option is great with the Bills receivers and Knox being covered. Beasley felt like Allen's checkdown guy last season. And again, this kind of, to an extent, goes to the Yak conversation. This is just kind of, let's wrap up the offense here, takeaways from the offense or reactions to the offense. And we'll wrap it up with the Yak talk because, David, you wrote an article about Josh Allen's comments on the stat of yards after catch yesterday. Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, for basically what Josh Allen was asked about was, getting more yak seems to be something that's been talked about this offseason. Is there, how and blah, blah, blah. Allen basically said, this is he believes that yak is a quarterback stat and that there's certain things that the offense can do to create situations where the receiver can have an opportunity to get more yak. So to me, that sort of seems like that is going to be another aspect of the Dorsey offense that will probably change from the Brian Daboll offense. Just creating more of those sorts of opportunities for the offense to get more yak and to put players in position to get that yak. And especially from the running back position, one thing that the Bills have been, again, Brian Daboll, we love Brian Daboll. I love Brian Daboll. I've been a big fan of his since he came to Buffalo. He's done a lot of great things, and he made to some of the best offenses this franchise will ever see in back-to-back years. But that team sucked at screens. Like when was the last successful screen that they ran? What was the last successful screen, especially to a running back that they ran?
Maybe like 2011.
They were just bad. And it's really hard for me to really figure out what it was, whether it was timing, whether it was the design, maybe they were too obvious on some of those things, but man, they just sucked. It really did on screens. So I am hoping that Dorsey figures out what that issue is. And maybe it is just a talent thing or having somebody who's really good at screens from a running back standpoint. And maybe that guy is James Cook. And if it is, then good. I would love to see a successful screen. And the other thing that I think creating more yards after the catch really does that I don't think is really talked about a lot. For a first-year offensive coordinator who is going to be calling plays on his own for the very first time, you have a set number of plays that you have on your play sheet on any given week. If you have plays that are going to get you yak, or you think are going to get you yak, and they actually do, now you don't need to exhaust that play sheet as much as you need to on a week-to-week basis. So now you can go from calling a, 9 to 12 play drive in order to get a touchdown every time to, hey, maybe we only need 4 or 5 plays on some drives. And it's not that Daboll was always calling 9 to 12 play drives or whatever or anything like that, because they would often hit a lot of big plays deep. But a lot of those big plays again came on the sideline, and you were having to go out of bounds because you couldn't just stop and then come right back inside to try to get more yards. So I think that just having to call fewer plays on a drive-to-drive or week-to-week basis can help just ease him into a rhythm and not feeling like he has to exhaust every single avenue that he has when calling plays.
just to wrap up offensive talk here before we move to the defensive side of the ball. Hold up. I just got a text. One of my friends is in the chat, so he's just texting me. Aaron writes, Shakir seems to be that gadget screen guy. I do think that's how Shakir ultimately works his way into the offense, is not like an exact McKenzie role, but in that type of, fun gadget player role. If Josh Allen wasn't such a good ball carrier and such a menace as a human being and as a football player, I would be pounding the table for Khalil Shakir to get direct snaps and Wildcat, because he did that a few times at Boise. Very rarely successful, always fun. So I would be pounding the table for Khalil Shakir to take some direct snaps. But again, at this point, if I want anyone to take a direct snap, it's Josh Allen, who is probably the Bills' best running back, to be honest, on top of their best quarterback. Again, if I need 3 yards, I'm calling a QB draw up the middle, or more like QB power. But you know what I mean. Okay. Are you good to move to the defensive side of the ball?
I'm good to move on.
Well, from what Eric has said, and everyone at camp, the defense has been the more promising unit, or maybe more flashy unit throughout the first 2 days of training camp, which, as I said, at this juncture, right, with no pads, it is to be expected that the defense is outplaying the offense. And again, with Josh Allen not even scrambling, it is to be expected that the defense does outperform. But again, it is fun to see that we'll focus here on the defensive line. It is fun to see that Von Miller through the first 2 days is everything is advertised, right? Von Miller is coming in. This narrative that I've seen from just not even really the national media, more so just stupid people on Twitter. This narrative of like, oh, the Bills are going to regret paying Von Miller. The Bills are going to regret giving him a 6-year contract. It's like, do any sort of research and you'll know that it's a 3-year contract. You do not even have to do a lot of research, just a little bit. Right? Just search Von Miller contract on Twitter and you will very easily see someone, probably Greg Thompson, but if not him, someone broke down. It's been broken down numerous times that Von Miller, he signed a 6-year contract in name only, or in, legalities, technicalities only, right? The same people who think he's going to be a Bill for 6 years are probably the same people who think he's going to be a stand-up outside linebacker. And it's like, no, he's only that so he can wear number 40. Like, these things aren't hard to place together. But anyway, my bit at the Cover One meetup was I was just going around telling people, oh, the Bills signed Von Miller. Did you know? Did you hear that the Bills signed Von Miller? I did this to everyone. By the end of the night, I was just passing people on the street. And I was like, hey, the Bills signed Von Miller. Bills signed Von Miller. And this dude was like, what? And I was like, yeah, Bills signed Von Miller. And he's like, yeah, I'll be back. And I was like, wait, like, what did you think? What did you think I said too? Are we going to fight? Like,
you hit him with some BS and he threw it right back at you.
What's going on? Are we going to fight? I got to go if we're fighting. If you're coming back to, we're squaring off. I got to get out of here. But Von Miller through 2 days has been very good, just a menace off the edge, still has it, right? It's as though the people who say that Von Miller, 1 was overpaid or 2 is old, doesn't have it anymore, and they shouldn't have given him a 6-year contract. It's like they didn't watch the playoffs last season. It's as though they just forgot that Von Miller is one of the most, he's the NFL active leader in sacks. Do you really think that because he got a 6-year contract that he's not the player he was 5 months ago? Give me a break. Figure it out, people.
It's amazing just how short some people's memories can be, honestly. I mean, Von Miller is just, he's a wrecking ball in a machine. I mean, between 2 teams last year, he had 9.5 sacks in the regular season alone, I think. And then had an unbelievable playoff performance all throughout that whole stretch. This dude still got it. He's still got it. And he's going to bring it. And he's going to be great. And he's going to be awesome. And I can't freaking wait to see Von Miller repping the number 40 jersey and destroying quarterbacks all season. Some people just, let's be honest. Some people just don't want to be happy.
No, they don't. They truly don't. But I'm happy that Von Miller is a Buffalo Bill. I know that, and I know that I'm happy that he's been shining through these first 2 days of training camp. But it's as though, again, that people, he's what, 33?
He is, in fact, 33 years old.
So he's 33. It's like people see that he signed a 6-year contract and they think he's 39 now. And it's like, no,
Right.
he's still 33. He's still a menace. Like, and he'll be 36 when his contract is actually over, probably still very productive.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, what, 5-time Super Bowl champion at that point?
Probably. Right? I mean, listen,
yes.
The people are saying it. We are not.
We are not. I never said that. Right? That was someone in chat. I just lost the comment. Sorry. But just talking about the defensive line further, Carlos Basham getting a little bit of hype. Boogie Basham getting a little bit of hype.
Did not know he switched his number to 55, which, like, big ups to him.
He can't do that.
Yes, he did.
He can't do it. No, I'm not saying he didn't do it. I'm saying he can't do it. I'm putting I'm putting the axe on that now.
He's honoring his first mentor in Jerry Hughes.
His favorite Bill of all time. His favorite player, Jerry Hughes.
Jerry Hughes or Aaron Schobel? Who would you take?
In what?
I don't know. Just like all time.
Just like in general, like to get a beer with?
No, just like who
as a football player?
Yeah,
that's what this podcast is. Probably Aaron Schobel, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like Jerry Hughes though. My favorite Jerry
Hughes.
I'm not. I would say my favorite Jerry Hughes story, but I'll just say Jerry Hughes he was a fun person to talk to in the locker room.
I'll tell you my favorite Jerry Hughes story when he tried to go after that ref in Miami and then pretended that it didn't happen.
Jerry Hughes.
10 minutes later, like, no, that didn't happen. And there's video of.
It just sucks, man, that the Bills were bad for the most of Jerry Hughes's, relevancy. But he's still relevant. He's down there in Houston, and Houston's great. Houston's a great team. But Boogie Basham, as we were saying, looks faster off the edge, which is to be expected given that he lost some weight this offseason. I don't want to say that he got in shape because he was in the shape that the Bills wanted him to be in last year. The Bills wanted him in a different shape this year. He gets into that particular shape and thus looks faster off the edge. So this would this would suggest that he's not the tweener.
This kind of seems like they're going to use him more as just a rotational edge, which is fine.
It's interesting. That's not where I saw him. That's not where I factored him into the lineup.
And to me, and maybe I'm reading a little too much into this, but it kind of suggests that maybe they're not quite as into what AJ Epinesa is bringing this year. Because I don't think they've ever planned for AJ Epinesa to be that inside out player. And if they're going to be pushing Basham to be just a more straight line edge type of guy, I mean, where exactly does Epinesa fit in on this rotation now?
My fear is that he's number 4 and Shaq Lawson gets kicked. I've been preaching the Shaq Lawson is a roster lock all off season, but after hearing,
friend of cover1.net,
right?
Shaq
Yeah,
Lawson.
He was just in the film room from a restaurant, which was fun to watch. But like my thing with Shaq Lawson is I've long said he is defensive end 3, Epinesa is 4, and then Basham will ultimately be the 9th DL, the inside out player, the tweener. But after hearing that he's, maybe just a defensive end, I don't know where this leaves Shaq Lawson or AJ Epinesa.
To me, it kind of again, it's early and I'm probably reading too much into things, but it kind of feels like Epinesa is not a lock to be on this roster right now.
I certainly
on defensive line and sort of moving Basham into that particular role, it would not surprise me, and we'll definitely get a better clue when we get into the preseason games and see what the rotation is like. But it's not it's not looking great for AJ Epinesa stocks and AJ Epinesa stock.
I think I don't know if Bean could get this draft pick, as John writes here, I could see Epinesa being traded. I don't know if he could get a 4th. I don't. That's
rich.
Pushing it. It's very rich. But what I'm saying is, like, I do not want to move on from Epinesa just for the sake of keeping Shaq Lawson. But like, I
Right.
would rather Shaq Lawson and God dang it with these tech spots. I would rather roster Shaq Lawson and have like a 4th or a 5th for Epinesa than I would like trade Epinesa for a 7th round pick and keep Shaq Lawson.
Yeah.
Like if I can't get more than a 4th or a 5th, that's where I'm drawing the line. A 5th is absolutely where I'm drawing the line in exchange for AJ Epinesa. Otherwise, I'm keeping him on the roster. But if I can trade him for a high day 3 pick, I would do it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Part of me wonders if they're just going to keep him around because they've talked about, Wyatt Teller being an example of them being too impatient with a particular player. And of course, Wyatt Teller ends up, becoming an all-pro type of player in Cleveland. And I think that they just want to be patient. And again, there's a difference in this is sort of the luxury of being a good and talented roster, is that when you do make mistakes in drafting players like Cody Ford and Zach Moss and AJ Epinesa, suddenly you can be patient with them and not feel like that you have to rely on this player or just get some sort of big value out of him in a trade. You can just say, hey, maybe this guy's good, maybe he's not, but we have control over him in a very cheap contract. So we can be a little patient and he doesn't have to play right away. And we don't feel like there's necessarily a hole on the roster if they're not who we want them to be right now. Because regardless of if AJ Epinesa is good or not, they still have Von Miller, they still have Greg Rousseau, they have Boogie Basham, who seems to be improving, and they bring back Shaq Lawson, who we seem to know what his floor is with this defense in particular.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not necessarily like a panic if AJ Epinesa is not the player that they want him to be and they don't trade him.
Jason writes, the sex bot saw David here and knew this stream drips with sexuality, and he hasn't even shown off the chest hair in a while.
That's right.
So.
It's been a long time since we've had chest hair on this podcast, which is
the last time
a travesty.
The last time he did it was when Fitz retired, and we didn't even mention that Fitz retired on the show. So
that's true.
Or maybe it was a different time. It's something to do with Fitz, and I just completely forgot to mention that Fitz was it had anything to do with Fitz. And then Ralph Wilson writes, again, thank you for joining us, Ralph Wilson Sr. from Beyond the Grave. They ruined Epinesa by making him transform from a power rusher to a speed guy. It also does have to be stated that Epinesa's faults can't be entirely placed on him. He comes in as a rookie and wasn't in the shape that they wanted him to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And then next year, right, they make him drop weight, similar to Carlos Basham. They make him transform his entire game essentially. And he just, again, if you wanted a speed rusher, why would you have drafted AJ Epinesa? Which just, does. Why would you draft AJ Epinesa, known for his power, and make him a speed rusher? It just doesn't make sense. So, again, I don't want to give up on AJ Epinesa because this was a dude who a lot of people, that draft year going into the year was like a top 10 pick. People thought realistically thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. Things kind of fall apart. Bills get him in the second round, but I would like AJ Epinesa to work out. I really would, but at this point, I just don't know if he's going to. And then Tim Settle. Tim Settle had a pick 6 yesterday. Tim Settle.
Just what you expect from your 320-pound nose tackle.
Right. And that's all we have to say about Tim Settle is that he had a pick 6. I read Matt Perino's article. Shout out Matt Perino. He wrote that it was an admittedly awful throw from Case Keenum. Just kind of went right into the hands of Tim Settle. Which, I mean, you didn't expect Tim Settle to be going up against Josh Allen at this point, did you? But so Case Keenum throws it right into Tim Settle's hands, and then pick 6. I'm surprised that he was allowed to write who threw the interception. I'm surprised.
That's a very good point.
Because now we know Tim Settle's with the second team.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's sort of his way of like circumventing, because he's not saying that Tim Settle and Case Keenum were playing second team. He's just saying that when Tim Settle had a pick six, Case Keenum was the one who threw the ball.
And he also said it was a bad ball too. So that's opinion. Like, you can't be doing that. That's just bad. Bill's PR is not going to be having that. FN, that's my friend, writes, AJ Epinesa is consistently the most impactful, irrelevant Bill. That's a quote that I tweeted once, and I'll stand by it. I will stand by the fact that he is consistently the most impactful, irrelevant Bill.
Are we sure? Are we sure we don't want to give that title to Zach Moss?
Ooh, maybe at this point. I think I tweeted that in Epinesa's rookie year. When he was still kind of AJ Epinesa and not, AJ Epinesa. That made sense. That made sense. The thing is that did not make sense if you were listening to the conversation. We'll talk about the linebackers here because Terrell Bernard kind of got some praise yesterday. Kind of got some praise for good coverage. But then also talking to Cover One people today, it's Tyrell Dodson, who is starting with the second team, or he's playing with the second team, also is the third linebacker in base. And then Hans Hansen said today in our group chat that Balin Spector got a little bit of time as the second team Mike.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I don't like that either. That has nothing to do with Terrell Bernard. He was never going to play Mike, so I just wanted to mention that Balin Spector. Yeah. Where's Tyler Matakevich? Where is he?
He's there with Matthew Smiley practicing his special teams.
Just a little busy. He's got other things to do.
He's got other things to do. I think it's a busy man on those special teams.
Last year at this time, when I heard Tyler Matakevich was second team Mike, I was like, "What? What's going on?" And then now I'm like, "Where is he? Like, why isn't he second team Mike?" And then John writes, "Training camp again." Why is Balin Spector second team Mike? Training camp, like second day of training camp, even like that's just But we'll see. I don't think Balin Spector makes the roster, but Terrell Bernard, kind of a guy that when he was drafted, people were initially like, "That's weird value. That's kind of strange. I didn't see that happening." But then once you started to do a little bit of research, a little bit of digging, watch the film, realize that he's he's at College McDermott's school. And what's the name? Dave Aranda.
Dave Aranda, yeah.
Yeah. Sean McDermott's good buddy, part of his inner circle. Yep. So it makes sense that if he went to bat for a linebacker, that Sean McDermott would be interested. So again, kind of described as a Matt Milano type player. So it makes sense that he is shining in coverage through these first, 2 days here. So one of the last players
that Aranda was pretty insistent on when it came to talking to McDermott about a player was Trey White when Aranda was the DC at LSU. So there is a reason why McDermott listens to Dave Aranda when he talks. So
speaking of Trey White, not active through the first 2 days of training camp, but there were videos coming out today that showed him doing a little bit of work, and not even on the sideline, just, wherever. I've never been to St. John Fisher College, though I have heard great things about the dining hall. But so just, doing work, kind of doing some warm-up stuff. It looks to be moving relatively well for someone who tore his ACL a couple of months ago, which would, lead you to believe. I don't know if he's going to be ready week one, which we'll address that super chat that John DeMarchi sent earlier here momentarily. But with Trey White not being active, it has been Dane Jackson and Kyer Elam getting the majority of the reps with the first team. I've heard more praise for Dane Jackson than I have for Kyer Elam, but there is a silver lining for Kyer. I can't say the name. I forgot how to say the name for Kyer Elam, which I will get into momentarily. So with Dane Jackson, I heard that he's come up with a couple of picks, has just played well, made a few plays. The sex bots are going to be the death of me. My God. But Dane Jackson coming up with plays whenever the opportunity arises. Also heard Taron Johnson being used in more man coverage situations on Isaiah McKenzie, and he's kind of sticking with Isaiah McKenzie on these crossing routes over the middle, which is what I forget the New England slot corner. I forget his name, but he could not do that. That was why Isaiah McKenzie played so well. So the fact that Taron Johnson is sticking with Isaiah McKenzie in man coverage over the field, apparently that's been a very fun battle to watch throughout these first 2 days, which McKenzie on Johnson, that just sounds like something I would very much like to watch. And then with Kaiir Elam, the thing I've read about Kaiir Elam is that he's been shadowing Stephon Diggs, and it's been going about as well as you'd expect for Kaiir Elam, being matched up on a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL consistently in his first 2 NFL practices against, actual NFL players. That being said, it's a silver lining because first 2 days and you're being matched up on a top 5 receiver in the NFL. So obviously this projects well for you. This regime, this coaching staff has high expectations for you if through the first 2 days they've stuck you on their number 1 receiver. Yeah. Like I don't think he's a lock. He's a lock to start week 1, regardless of Trey White is active or not. I do believe at this point, if they're just keeping him on on Stephon Diggs, kind of a welcome to the NFL thing. Again, it's awesome that Dane Jackson is making these plays. And again, he's presumably going up against guys like Gabriel Davis and, guys in that caliber who are very good players. And Gabriel Davis is another guy who stuck out through these first 2 practices as well. But with Kaiir Elam being able, not necessarily to match up against Stephon Diggs, but the fact that they are sticking him on him, and that's how he's being welcomed to the NFL, that only bodes well for him. That's an iron sharpens iron situation. So, David, your thoughts on the DBs here, specifically the corners?
Not surprising from what we've heard. I would be surprised if Trey White is ready before week 5, week 6. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a little bit before he is able to come back. And the Bills have typically exercised caution under this regime when it comes to coming back from an injury. So I'm okay with taking your time. I would rather have Trey White for 8 weeks down the stretch than having him for 6 weeks and then re-injuring himself somehow, some way. So I'm glad to. I'm actually very happy to hear that Dane Jackson is playing well in the position that he's playing in. I think that this is going to be his 3rd year, right? Which he's done a pretty solid. He's done a very good job relative to being a 7th round pick a couple years ago. He's been doing just sort of in a vacuum a pretty solid job overall, and I think just that continuous growth and the confidence that this coaching staff seems to have in him and not only just having him start, but also, this is essentially the Levi Wallace replacement right now. And this coaching staff loved Levi Wallace for many, many years, and they felt comfortable enough with Dane Jackson to say, all right, well, it's been real, Levi Wallace, but you go get your money where you can get it.
All right, deuces. My friend Nick with a $1.49 super sticker. I don't know what that is, but I appreciate it. I very much appreciate it. I will Venmo that back to you later. But
hey, half of that is my money.
all right, Nick, I'll Venmo you half of it.
The 75.
Yes, John Herrick writes, I have always been high on Dane, just worried about the other spot. Right, with Elam, it's a hot dog. What are you talking about? It's a hot dog. It's literally a hot dog.
Is he saying that the $1.49 is equivalent to what a hot dog would cost?
I don't know. If it's
a
hot dog
joke?
on the screen,
are you supposed to buy him a hot dog now? Or
maybe we do not see any hot dog. We see no hot dogs here on our end. Maybe there's on the YouTube there's a hot dog, so we just sound like idiots. Maybe what hot dog? What are you talking about?
We sound like idiots right now.
Right? That's just the perfect. That is the perfect encapsulation of this podcast. Is we sound like idiots right now. But with talking further about the cornerback situation, Leslie Frazier kept bringing up Tim Harris when talking about potential guys who could step up. Tim Harris White, also Saran Neal is still getting play on the boundary. I haven't heard if Nick McLeod has gotten any play at corner because Sal Capaccio today on WIVB said that Nick McLeod is getting reps at safety, came up with 2 interceptions at safety. And I've also heard that Damar Hamlin is playing well at safety. With Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, they're playing well, obviously. Poyer had a couple interceptions, and that's not news. But with McLeod and Hamlin, look, I said last week that Hamlin is a potential long-term starting safety here. With Hyde and Poyer on the wrong side of 30, and Hamlin, with this Bills regime having the track record it does with developing DBs, to have a guy like Hamlin with that play style, with that grit, to have him as a guy who they can develop for a couple of years, Damar Hamlin is going to be a good safety. It's just going to happen.
For sure.
And Nick McLeod, with them giving him a few snaps at safety, seeing what he is there, that's really interesting.
It is. Yeah, it's interesting that just sort of seeing where these DBs end up shaking out. Because obviously guys like Poyer and Hyde are going to be the starters, but the backups have always been sort of it's always been very nebulous with these safeties who the backups are.
Nebulous. Is that a Star Wars thing?
It's a word.
Is it?
You don't need to attack me like that.
I'm not attacking. That's just a question. That sounds like I've never heard that word used in a football sentence.
Listen, I'm here breaking boundaries, man.
We sound like idiots right now. No, my friend did send me. He sent me a picture. Sorry to cut you off. He sent me a picture. There is a hot dog. There is a hot dog on YouTube.
Good. Okay. I was worried. I was worried there wasn't a picture for everyone to see of
a visual aid.
The hot dog that cost $1.49.
Yeah, that's And the thing is, you know what the issue with capitalism is? It's that I couldn't even get a real hot dog for that price. And that's why we need to do something about the system, man. Cover one Roundup. Come for the football takes, come or stay for the sedition.
Jesus Christ.
That's a joke. Don't do that.
Anyway, as I was saying, the backup safeties with this team have never really, there's never been seemingly like a long-term backup safety for this team, guys like Saron Neal are not someone you want playing defense in general. He's a very good special teams player, but he is not a somebody you want playing on defense. But someone like Damar Hamlin, who a lot of people seem to like, he seems to be living up to that draft cult that he's been building. And as far as Nick McLeod goes, I mean, if they give a guy some reps, I'm going to pay attention. That's how it's going to be. Again, preseason, we're going to see exactly how they feel about some of these guys. It'll be interesting. Yeah, I'm now that we've gotten to training camp and we have actual football stuff to talk about. Now I feel like I'm just going to be saying I'm looking forward to preseason, and then I'm get into preseason.
Now we want more. Give me more.
Yeah.
Brian Freedom writes, I'm leaving because you have a problem with capitalism. Man, I'm not anti-capitalism. I'm just pro-hot dog. FN writes, some have said that the backup DB situation has been nebulous. People are saying that. Again,
said it.
We haven't said it.
I am not saying it because that's a ridiculous word to say on a football podcast, apparently.
Is that it's apparently a word? I've just never heard it used like in a non-science fiction context. But I'm happy. I'm happy that big words are being thrown around here on the Cover One Roundup, putting that education to good use. You love to see it. Nick McLeod. I do like Nick McLeod. Again, as Hans Hansen said on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, runs one of the fastest 40-yard dashes on the team, second only to Taiwan Jones, which maybe is a little indication into how valuable the 40-yard dash is. But with Nick McLeod, it's interesting at least, right? And he's a guy who the Bills obviously like. They obviously like him. They signed him as an undrafted free agent last year, tried to stick him on the practice squad. He gets claimed off waivers by Cincinnati, who were the best team in the AFC last year. We all know that, and we all agree with that. And then with Nick McLeod ultimately leaving Cincinnati, coming back to Buffalo. So it's interesting to see that maybe long-term they project him as a safety, which I need to see him play safety, right? But I like the idea. Like, I'm sold on Hamlin as a long-term safety, as I've said, right? Assuming that he kind of continues this development in a linear way, I could see him being a long-term safety. And then with McLeod, the idea on paper, it seems like it could work. It's a crazy enough idea that it could work.
That's right.
Dad of a Bills fan with a comment, right, porn bots, anti-capitalism, the revolution starts here. That's what we're doing here on the Cover One Roundup. Vive la revolution.
Steve Saviano, if you back off your anti-capitalist stance, I'm leaving. So we have one leaving because we're against capitalism. We're not. And one who's going to leave if we back off the anti-capitalist.
I'm trying to please everybody. So, David, you need to be the pro-capitalism, and then just for the brand, I'm not saying this is not. We're gonna cut it off.
We're for the record, we're absolutely gonna get fired as soon as this podcast ends.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. No, we did get some love at the Cover One meetup. Aaron Quinn said that he liked the pairing. He liked our dynamic, and that for being a random pairing, it worked. And I was like, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, this is true. This is very much an arranged marriage of sorts.
It very much is. Which
is as far as it goes. Listen, I've done worse.
There has never been a better arranged marriage in the history of the world than this one.
That's exactly right.
FN with a $2 super sticker. Thank you so much. What food?
Now we gotta know.
Right. Maybe. What food did you put that this is going to start another economics
on YouTube on my second monitor?
There's been so much economics talk on this show lately. Last week it was Economics 101, which the takeaway was another beer in the pregame. That was Economics 101. And then this week it's we were getting into more advanced things. We're talking about capitalism versus communism or Marxism. Yeah. Where Jason wrote here. My ex preferred Italian sausage. I'm German. I had currywurst for dinner today. I made currywurst. Delicious. Delicious. Love currywurst.
The sticker that he put in was a coffee cup that says tired. So
I am. He's right. We are an hour and 16 minutes deep here. And it's been a hell of a show. Very much enjoyed this podcast. I think that wraps it up, right? Do we want to talk about the punter? I've heard nothing about Matt Ariza.
I've heard nothing about punting, which I'm a little disappointed by. This is why we need you there, Kyle.
This is why we need actual
a day job that's preventing you from doing this and covering
no, not at all. Like the issue is that there's no real you know what? I'm not gonna say that. Cover One has friends, the friends who are journalists. I just don't get how the team drafted a player named Punt God, right? His legal name, Punt God. How his government name? How has no one tweeted about him? No one. I've seen nothing about Matt Ariza through the first two preseason or two whatever training camp sessions. It's sad. It's sad. How does this happen? Is this Bills PR? Is this maniacal Bills PR?
It might be. It just might be a plot against
saying no one talk about the punters. In which case, sad. You know,
it is.
All I know is when I own a football team, I'm gonna have a good PR department, and I am credentialing Cover One.
Are they? Are they gonna put up or live stream every press conference instead of picking and choosing which ones?
Oh, see. That's another thing. Why are you not live streaming Leslie Frazier? Dude is money. Dude is electric every time he's in front of a microphone. I feel like running through a wall. He comes out and he's like, well, we are part of the Red Sea, and he says these great inspirational quotes that get you going. And I have to tune into BuffaloBills.com later, my former employer, to watch the press conferences? No shot. Not doing it. Figure it out. Leslie Frazier should be a head coach again. That's where we're ending this podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the Cover One YouTube channel, which is where you have, again, this wonderful show lives here. The show that is exclusively about football and has the best football
and
analysis.
Nothing else.
And nothing else. The air raid hour is coming up here relatively soon in 40 minutes. Make sure you stick around for that. Also tomorrow, or usually on Tuesdays, we have Going Deep with Kevin and Mike. Also have the Film Room, and then we have Cover One Buffalo, Disguised Coverage. The fantasy show is coming back soon. So make sure to check all that out. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the iTunes feeds, leave 5-star reviews if you feel like it. Make sure to check out Cover One Pass. For, again, I plugged the content that Eric and you, David, Greg wrote an article, and we also have Ryan and Hans over there writing stuff. Great articles coming out all the time over there. Again, affordable price, great analysis. Check it out. Again, access to the Cover One Premium Slack as well. Always great conversations happening over there. Make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy. Again, use promo code Cover One, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. That's not very capitalist, I don't think.
It kind of has to be, because it's a company that's doing it, not the government.
That's a good point. Maybe it's the most capitalist if you think about it.
Sure.
Thank you guys for watching. Underdog Fantasy promo code Cover One. We will talk to you.
Hold on. First, let's get rid of the sex spots.
Got one more sex spot to ban.
You can find me at DFAUXY on Twitter. You can find a whole bunch of really lukewarm takes on there. And you can also find me writing a bunch now that we're actually doing stuff and in season and starting to actually get some real football stuff. Kyle, where can the people find you on the good old tweet bot?
They can find me on Twitter at Kyle Salegi. Thank you guys for watching. We will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.